Hi everyone, welcome to our Stamping Society blog hop. I actually have another video for you, surprise! So in our tutorial this month we are featuring a Nature's Beauty stamp set, and this one is a special stamp set because proceeds of the sales from this stamp set go towards mental health, which is a really good thing to be doing. So it's on the last page of your holiday catalogue, and it's a great one to raise a little bit of money. So this is the card that we are making in our blog hop. Let's just stand up so I make sure that I'm in the right area. So I'm going to show you how to make it. So it's sort of almost like a 2-for-1. If you get the tutorial, then you get this one as well. Actually, I don't think that came out right. But anyway, you know what I mean. Okay, so I'm using the Stamparatus, and I'm going to need a... Oops, did I just get that grubby? I hope not. I'm going to need a magnet, and I'm using the fluid watercolor paper here. So, and I've already cut out my circle. Very tight, these things. I think I did get a bit grubby. That's okay. We shall soon cover it up. Now, I guess it doesn't really matter if he's not straight, because being a circle, I can turn it around. And so I just want to hook it up on my Stamparatus there. And because we're going to be watercolouring today, we need the StazOn, which is alcohol based. Okay, so opposites attract when it comes to colouring. Okay, and the reason I am using my Stamparatus is because I would like a nice black image, and working on the fluid, I like to double stamp. And this way I can get it all in the same position. Although if you happen to be watching my tutorial video, you'll notice that I didn't get it in the same position and I had to start again. Just one of those little things that happen sometimes. There we go, that's a nice dark image. That actually worked out. Okay, get rid of that. Now I am going to take the time to give my stamp a quick clean. I'm just going to put it onto a block. I'm using my trusty old Stampin' Scrub for this, which I have already sprayed with my Stampin' Mist, because I find that if you clean it straight after you've used with StazOn, this will get all your StazOn off, which is fantastic, which is exactly what we want. Okay, I'm just going to put that aside, get that out of the way. Right, now I just do want to put a little bit of grassy area around this image, because there is a little, oops, can't use my lid for stamping, can I? Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I've got this up the right way. Wouldn't that be dreadful? I'm just going to stamp a little bit of grass on either side. We actually have wild bunnies, the little brown, grey bunnies that come around. They're just starting to come back. I think as the weather's warming up, we get them in our yard. Our yard is nothing, believe me, but I think they enjoy coming and getting a few of the weeds, dare I say. Okay, let's zoom in. Okay, it's as far as I can go. So the colours that we are using today, I need to get my rag. We are going to be using now you don't have to use as many colours as what I am doing, but this is what I'm doing. So I'm using Crumb Cake, Soft Suede, and Early Espresso. So I'm starting off with, I don't know whether you can see everything that I've got going on. Okay, so I'm starting off with Crumb Cake, and I am pretty much just going to, go around that. I just want to leave that little bit open there for his ear. I need to master the ability to talk and colour at the same time. I still haven't done that. I try. Okay, so I'm just pretty much going to cover the whole bunny except for his little bit of a nose and his inside of his ear, and of course his little cotton tail. We want to leave that white at the moment. Okay, my next colour is Soft Suede, and you can see I've already been squeezing my ink pad. So, and then I'm just going to go just over the top, around the edges, caught on the, my paper's all curling, so I just want to sort of go around there. I'm just sort of taking the same area as the lines that have been drawn on the image. And give my brush a good wipe off and pounce all that together. Now, you can go over this again, just let it sit for a moment and see how that's gone darker again. But we don't want to go as into the middle as we had last time, if that makes sense. We want to leave a few little patches. Just sort of follow around where the little hairline marks are already in the back of his ear. Now you can leave it like that if you wish. You don't have to go any further, but if you do want a little bit more depth in your colouring, grab your early espresso. Now, this is quite a dark brown, so you'll probably want to just go right around the edges without coming in too much. Just a little bit around his tail. Tiny little bit over his little hip here. Under his chin, and just a little bit around the edges of his face as well. And of course the back of his ear, just ever so slightly. So you don't have to add too much, just a little. So you can leave that step out if you want. Now I have forgotten one colour, and that is a bit of petal pink. The tiny little bit of ink left still, and I'm just going to pop that in the inside of his ear and on his nose here. Just blend that brown a little bit more. Just like that. Okay. Now, he's pretty well done. He's pretty well coloured. So we want to move on to our background now. So we're going to use some old olive. And I'm going to squeeze a bit of water into my palette. Into my lid. It's not really a palette now, is it? Just going to squeeze a bit of water just so that I've got a little bit of a slushy going on here. And then I'm just going to use the side of my Aquapainter. Make sure I'm in the right area for you. And just sort of push the side of my Aquapainter down. And that way I can get close to my image without it bleeding. And just going to push it down like that. Now the second time I come in, I'm going to grab some of this darker colour. And I'm just going to push that around closer to where my image actually is, and along there. Okay, now again, if you've only got the one colour green, you can stop there, or you can use a lighter coloured green and then put the old olive as your darker one. I'm going to use Mossy Meadow as my next colour. But again, you can just stop right there if you want. Okay, and then the same, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of the darker colour, and you'll notice that my brush isn't so wet anymore, and then I'm just going to pounce that on, because when I pounce it on, it seems to, like my brush gets naturally wet when I'm pushing my nib, like the brush down to move it onto the side, if that makes sense. Okay, now this colour seems to be a little bit of a brown based green, so you'll find that some of my image here will sort of go a little bit like a brownie colour, like a brownie green, which is pretty cool. Okay, next I am using Barmy Blue, and I'm going to just give that a little bit of a squeeze just to get a bit more colour in there. Make sure my brush is nicely clean. I'm just using my paper towel, my very trusty paper towel. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this one is put a drop of water in, well, not even a full drop actually, just to make it wet, and I'm going to drag some of that colour out so that I can work with it out here. Okay, and you'll notice that my brush is pretty full, and I'm just going to do the same action, push it around. With this one I can spin my image around, take it right out to the edge, reload my brush when I need to. Okay, so there's my first layer down, and then I'm going to pick up some of the darker colour and bring it into that watery, just sort of so I get a really light one, a middle one, and I'm going to just do the same thing, coming in close to the image. So you can see that we're starting to get a little bit darker, closer to him, closer to the little bunny. And wipe off my brush. And then I'm going to pick up some of this dark colour. And do the same thing. And there's a little bit of moisture still on my paper. And then I will just get really close to him. And you can notice that I'm not flattening out my brush as much anymore. As I get closer to him, the closer to the bunny, I don't flatten out my brush as I was the first time round. Okay, so you can see that that's gently layered up my colours. So I'm going to set him aside to dry a little bit and just make sure that that is fairly well wiped off. Now, there's one thing I do have to do, and that's stand up and make sure I pull this back. I have a habit of forgetting that. Okay, so my card prep, I am going to be using Barmy Blue as my base. And I'm just going to quickly sponge around the edges of my cardstock. Looks like it's gotten a little bit of purple in there. I don't know. All right, so just really quickly, I go through stages where I like sponging and then I don't sponge, and I think it depends on the card that you're doing. Okay, now what I also would like to do for this one is grab, it's sort of like the wintry brush, you know, the bushes that have lost all their, whoops, now I've lined that up. So if I keep my block square, you know, the bushes that have lost all their greenery in the, I think you guys have them in the snow for those in the US. Okay, so I have just stamped 3 of them on there. Now what I would like to do, just to ground them a little bit more, is grab some of this colour and just sort of paint some extra blue, just throwing it down, nothing spectacular, just underneath, just to ground it up a little bit, like that. And because it's tone on tone, it's really subtle. Okay, now when I was doing my card base, like my little bit of accent cardstock here, my layers, I was going to, because I've got a brown bunny, I was going to use green and crumb cake or green and early espresso, but I found that I was turning my card into a fairly masculine card with that colour. So I sort of wanted it to be a little bit more girly, because I do send a lot more cards to women than what I do to men. So what I did was grabbed the petal pink that I used in his ears and used that instead. Now I'm probably going to run out of snail fairly quickly. I'm hoping that I can get through these cards. So I'm just using my grid paper to line up and have it at about 1/2 centimetre, like that. And then I'm going to adhere this one. Oh, getting close. add here this one also to my card base, about 1 centimetre in. Oh, I think I've got a bit of overhang there. I might have to trim off a little bit later. Okay, and then this should be nice and dry by now. You could go in again and even sponge around, like add another layer there if you wanted to. I am, oops, you'll see what's happened here in a sec. All these have come off and stuck to something else. All right, so I'm just using the ends of my, getting every last bit out of them. Okay. And, whoops. When you're trying to be quick and they don't want to come off. Okay, so we want to pop the bunny over, and I've got a little hello, so I'm going to pop a mini dimensional on one end and then put adhesive on the other. And where will I put this one? Down here. Try and make sure he's straight. Oops, might help if I get my card straight. There we go, a little hello. And then I'm actually going to use, I know I normally use rhinestones, but I'm going to use these frosted and clear epoxy drops. So we've got frosted and we've got clear ones. I quite like the clear ones. They sort of are a little bit dewy. Oops. Sort of magnify the area a little bit too. So we're going to pop one over here and another big one over here, and then we'll grab a small one and we'll pop that there as well, just for something a little bit different to my usual rhinestones or sequins. So I think these ones might end up being my next favourites. So there we have our cards. So you can see that each time you do the colouring in, he will turn out differently. That's just the way that it goes. You could add a little bit more colour in there if you wanted to. But that is my card for our blog hop. Make sure you head around to everybody's blogs and see what inspiration that you can get with the Nature's Beauty stamp set. Don't forget, some part of the proceeds go to mental health in your country. Thanks a lot. Bye.